Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big heart, and his love, deep love of our country. And I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
Vice President Kamala Harris made her first appearance since President Joe Biden stepped down from the 2024 race. Speaking at a White House event on Monday, Harris called Biden's legacy unmatched. She didn't mention her effort to clinch the Democratic nomination, but she did write on X that she'd be visiting the Biden campaign's headquarters in Delaware today. To break this all down, we're joined now by The Hill's congressional reporter, Michael Schnell. Michael, what's the latest on endorsements here?
Yeah, well, Vice President Kamala Harris just picked up a really key endorsement in her quest for the presidency. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi just threw her support behind Kamala Harris. You'll remember that in the immediate aftermath of Biden stepping down and endorsing Kamala Harris, Speaker Pelosi put out a statement lauding President Biden's service, but stopping short of endorsing Vice President Harris. It raised some eyebrows, but Pelosi today coming out with a full-throated endorsement in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris. So, a big development, a big pickup for the vice president.
Yes, very big pickup for her. In addition to lots of other top Democrats, we learned John Fetterman endorsed her today, Pete Aguilar, Dick Durbin, among others. But you are on Capitol Hill right now, right? So what's the energy like there? And what are lawmakers telling you? Anything interesting?
Yeah, so today is what's called Fly-In Day, which means it's the first day that lawmakers are back in the Capitol after the long recess. So they won't return until later this afternoon. But I could tell you there's one big thing that's happening all day right now. It started this morning. It's still going on. Is that House oversight hearing with U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. That has been very heated. I just popped into the hearing room a few minutes ago. Both Democrats and Republicans really strongly pressing the Secret Service director about the security lapses that took place at that rally of former President Trump's when former President Trump had that assassination attempt, asking them about the security lapses, about who should be held responsible and if there will be any repercussions. So that's really been the talk of the town up here on Capitol Hill this morning in the early afternoon, but expect the conversation to maybe not shift, but definitely expand to also include President Biden dropping out and Vice President Kamala Harris ramping up her bid to be president, because this is, of course, the first time that lawmakers are back in the Capitol since that seismic decision yesterday from President Biden.
Right, definitely. A lot going on the Hill. And Vote Latino pledged $44 million to Harris. So can you tell us a little bit more about how other major donors are reacting to this news? And are all of them expected to shift their support to Harris, or could she have some roadblocks there?
Yeah, we're already seeing Vice President Kamala Harris pick up some significant support among donors and among different key groups within the Democratic Party. Her team has noted that she raised around $50 million since President Biden announced he was stepping down and endorsed his vice president. When you talk about other political groups that are endorsing Harris, AAPI Victory Fund, the Collective PAC, and the Latino Victory Fund are just three that have recently thrown their support behind Harris and her presidential bid. So she is absolutely picking up support. The money seems to be flowing in. So, I would expect that the vice president's team is pleased so far with how things are going, because remember, the caveat here is that Democrats are in such an uncharted territory. This is such an unprecedented situation. There's, nobody really knows how the next few weeks and months will run, but the money is still flowing in and the endorsements are coming. So it's a good sign for the vice president.
Yeah, like you said, the money is definitely flowing in. At the end of June, the Biden campaign had just under $96 million on hand. And just hours after the Biden's announcement to step down, the campaign filed to change its name to Harris for President. So what are the next steps for Kamala to access those funds? And could the FEC hold up that process?
Yeah, so her name was put on the super PACs and rather than the super PACs, her name was put on the campaign's war chest. So the expectation is that she will be able to get it pretty quickly. But there are some questions about whether or not Republicans will launch some, complaints, challenges about this, some legal challenges. There was one person who was signaling this earlier, Sean Cooksey, who was the Trump-appointed chair of the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, suggested that Harris may not be able to easily access access the millions of dollars that are still in Biden's war chest, which, that contrasts with what a lot of campaign finance experts and lawyers are saying, that she is able to access it. Of course, beforehand, it was the Biden-Harris campaign. But nonetheless, definitely there'll be some news on the legal front as Democrats try to make this transition from Biden at the top of the ticket to Harris at the top of the ticket.
Well, given how things have gone for her at this point, do you think another Democrat would dare try and enter the fold, or is that just career suicide at this point?
I mean, never say never. We heard Senator Joe Manchin sort of flirt with it for a second and then say he has no intention of running. He just wants to have some competition and an open convention. So, when you talk about Democrats, never say never. They are a very diverse party. But right now, nobody has stepped up to challenge Vice President Kamala Harris. And she's really coalescing support from several different corners of the party.
Right. It definitely does seem like she's the key frontrunner here. Former President Trump responded to the announcement, posting 10 times on Truth Social. So is the Trump campaign worried about the potential of facing Harris over Biden here?
I don't know that I, maybe say worried, but, this is definitely a change at the top of the ticket. And I can tell you, Republicans were quite pleased with the idea of running against Vice President Kamala Harris. Running against President Biden. His flaws were, of course, very much so on the forefront. His age, that disastrous debate performance, that subpar interview and press conference. So Republicans were pleased to be running against Biden now that he's off the ticket and Harris is at the top. They're going to figure out their new attack lines on Harris and figure out how to run their campaign. So I don't know that you can yet say that they're concerned or scared, but it's definitely, as much of a transition as this is for Democrats, it's also a transition for Republicans, since it really does shake up the entire race.
Right. And as you mentioned, age was such a big factor for President Biden in this race. Do you think it'll be the same? It'll be a factor to the same degree for President Trump now that he's facing a potentially younger candidate on the other side?
I think Democrats are going to try to make it an issue because, remember, this was always the election of two old guys who have already held office trying to hold office again. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now it's just one older guy who's running against a younger woman who's never held the office of the presidency before. So I think that absolutely we're going to see Republicans sort of Democrats try to flip the script on Republicans and make this matter of age an issue. It was pretty potent when Republicans used it against Democrats. Democrats are now hoping it'll have the same effect if they use it against Republicans.
Well, the DNC started an ad campaign against Trump's much younger running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, and the LGBTQ community is also voicing their concerns over him, too. So what do you think are his biggest vulnerabilities heading into this election?
I think that we're just going to hear Democrats sort of describe him as, what we've heard them describe a lot of other folks, including Trump, an extreme MAGA Republican, try to touch on his, various policy positions, the different votes he's taken, his foreign policy stances. He's very America first. So I think that we're going to see Democrats really zero in on some of his policy perspectives and different votes to try to make the case against him.
Michael Schnell, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hunter Biden dropped a lawsuit against Fox News. The president's son filed the lawsuit just last month over a fictional miniseries that he claimed featured sexually explicit images of him without his consent. Now, Fox removed the show from its platforms in April, but Hunter Biden still filed the suit 2 months later. It's unclear what led him to drop it. Hundreds of migrants are headed toward the U.S.-Mexico border in hopes of attaining asylum. The group departed near Mexico's southern border on Sunday, and they're on the move now for a reason. One migrant told the Associated Press that they fear another potential Trump administration could block their future chances. He also criticized the former president's comments on migrants. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Bianca Facchinei. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.